All right, so for this video, we're going to be talking about the HTTP connector in Power Automate. This is by far one of the most useful connectors to be out there because it lets you connect to just about any endpoint on the internet that you can hit with an HTTP protocol. So let's jump over to our flow. All right, so I've got kind of just a base setup here, and I'll go through a couple things here in a minute. But first, I want to talk about the endpoint that we're going to hit here. It's one of these free APIs that's available out on the internet. It's a random dad joke. Um, you can call it by doing a GET request to this endpoint and passing in application.json in the header under the accept. So that will tell it to return this piece of JSON that has an ID, a joke, and a status. So let's go over here to our setup here. So I've already kind of pre-created a flow here with a few pieces in here. This will let us get to the posting here later on. But what we're going to do is first we're going to jump in here. And this is a manual flow. It's just, hit a button, it'll trigger it. And we can change it later on to be another kind of flow. But what we will do is search for our HTTP connector. And if you scroll down, you'll find this one here. It's one of the premium connectors, so it does require a license in order to use it. And there's a couple different versions of it here. We've got the base one, which is the one we'll kind of be demonstrating here. There's one with Swagger and a webhook. We won't really kind of go into those. Those are kind of less useful, but they're out there in case you want to use them. And there are, let me expand that here. Oh, no, yeah, it's just those three. So we'll just hit the base one. So what you're going to set up here, and there's really not many options here, so it's pretty straightforward. It's basically, if you're familiar with doing curl requests, it's basically doing the same thing. So you have the endpoint that you're going to hit, which is the URI. You're going to do the method. In this case, we're going to do a get. And let's go over here and let's get our endpoint. And it's going to be this one right here. So ICANN has dad joke. And then we're going to put in our headers. So I mentioned in order to get this type of response back, we want to put in an accept header with application/JSON. So for the headers, you can put those here into the headers section. So we're going to do accept, and we're going to do application/JSON. And you can see as you start filling out one, it automatically pops up another row here. You just leave it blank if you're not going to use it, but it lets you put in as many headers as you need to. If you're going to add query string values, you can put them on here. In this case, we don't have any. And then body, in this particular case, we're not putting anything in the body because we're just doing a get, but I'll demonstrate using the body a little bit later. And then advanced parameters, there's cookies if you want to pass in a cookie or attach a cookie to it. And then authentication. So if you're going to do authentication of some sort in order to hit the endpoint here, this is where you would enter that information. You can do basic, client certificate, OAuth, managed identity. We won't be demonstrating any of that today. I will show you how to do it like a bearer token here in a little bit. So that's basically the setup here for this. And then do see here, rename this get dad joke. And let's go ahead and save that off. And for the moment, let's change this. We don't want to do. Failed. Let's turn that. Basically, this is kind of a little thing kind of stops flow working right here. So go ahead and test that just to show you the output. Do a manual test and run that. And you'll see here from our output, did a get call, pass and accept JSON, and then here's the output. So you can see we have the ID of the joke, and then here's the joke. What do you give us? Like lemonade. So I'm going to copy that out here because we're going to need that to parse the JSON here in just a second. let's go back to edit. So we get our JSON response back, and then if you want to parse the JSON, search for the parse JSON action, which is under our data operations. And the content that we're going to parse is the output from our get dad joke. So you want the body. The body contains the output here. And for the schema, so you can either create the schema manually, if you know how what the structure of the JSON schema is going to be, or you can just auto-generate using a sample payload, which is why we copied out that example either. So you just click that, you paste in the sample payload, and click done, and it will automatically generate your JSON schema based on that sample payload that you put in there. So most of the time that works pretty well. You have to be careful. You can't paste in there anything that's really big. So if you have like a huge amount of JSON that comes back, you'll need to kind of edit it down a little bit before you can paste it into this sample payload box. You also need to kind of keep an eye out for things, it'll just, generally it'll take from like the first couple of entries from each level of the schema. So, if you have fields that only appear in some of the output, you'll kind of have to manipulate your sample JSON so that those appear in the first couple of examples. That way it'll actually pick up that in the generate schema section. So we've got that, and this will parse it out, and then once we've parsed this, then from the output from this we can get either the ID, the joke, or the status. Let's go ahead and save that for the moment. And then let's go down here to these steps that I've got down here. Whoa, what happened? Right, we need to turn that back off. Turn that back off. Let's go back to successful. Not sure why that has jumped up here. What's going on? Let's undo the last couple changes here. There we go. That was weird. I'm not sure what happened. So let's go back into the parse here and turn all that back on here. So you can ignore these couple things. I'm just setting up some variables for some authentication against Mastodon and Blue Sky so that I don't accidentally share that with you. All right, so here we have an example of a post. So I've got my post to Mastodon. So I've got my parse here. I've got the output from the dad joke. So here we're posting to our statuses endpoint. It's a post method. I'm passing in a bearer token. So if you're doing an authorization with a bearer token, you put that in your header like you would any other way of calling this endpoint. Put in bearer, and then your token. And then for Mastodon, it's URL encoded form. So that's the content type that we pass in. And then down here in the body, it's just form output here. So I've got this part here. So I've got dad joke of the day. I've got a couple of new lines. I'm going to replace that with the output of the parse JSON. So I go up here to my parse JSON and body joke. And then you can see, I've got my other parameter here that I don't need. Same thing with Blue Sky. So for instance, under here, it's post, calling the create session. With Blue Sky, you have to create a session and get a token first, and then call that. So I'm passing in my ID and my password, and then I'm parsing that output, and then use that as the access token that they give you back from this create session. And then this is the format of how you post to Blue Sky here. And I cover that in another video, a little bit better detail. So again, I'm going to replace that placeholder with the body Blue Sky session joke. All right, so let's save that. And I think I've got everything set up right here. So let's go ahead and test it. Oh, why does it do that? Go back. That's really weird. I don't know why it keeps jumping up. Did it again. That is bizarre. I have never seen this do that before. Okay. So Blue Sky settings. Post Blue Sky settings. run after parse blue sky session. It's set correctly. That is really weird. Let's try that one more time. Okay, maybe I need to go back out and back in. So they changed the UI for Power Automate about a year ago, and still has a little bit of issue here and there. So I come back in here, and this is really weird. Blue sky session. Yeah, see, that's the problem there. It should be after. Okay, that time it worked right. Now, for some reason, it was thinking that it belonged up here somewhere. That's kind of odd. I've never seen that. So let's go ahead and test that again. Done. It's running. I had an issue there, but I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. So we can look at Mastodon though. So it ran through successfully. Let's go over here and open up Mastodon, and you can see it did not work at all. Let's delete that. All right, so we'll figure that out in a second here. But what was the failure? See, that didn't save that update either. Invalid token. Get that joke. Oh, my parse disappeared. Oh, I know what happened. Okay. So I created another parse JSON, and apparently it stole the name. And this is one of the bugs that happens sometimes, is that it steals the name from an identical action type. And then when it's trying to save that, something happens and it just doesn't work right. So I'm going to do the content from get dad joke and the schema. Let's just copy this example here. That'll work just as well. Done. Okay, save that. Let's try renaming it. Dad joke. JSON. All right, under joke, let's replace that with joke. Okay, so we've got our session, parsing that. That is not, I think, the correct output. Yeah, see, it stole all the JSON, or it stole all the configuration from the other one here. So, hang on just a minute here. I've got to grab that from another file. The output from the create blue sky session. And here, let's delete that. And we want the access JWT there. And let's replace the dad joke again with body of the joke. There we go. So let's save that and test. Hopefully that fixes both the issues. No, it still doesn't like that for some reason. Malformed authorization header. All right, well, I'll have to dig into that separately, but we can go back over here to Mastodon. You can see that it has posted the joke. Did you hear about the campsite? All right. So that's all there is to it with the HTTP connector. You basically just you make your call. You can do any of the methods for connecting a get, delete, post, put, patch. Um, any of those are available to you, as you can see here. And then each one it's basically the same as creating a curl request. If you're doing it from the command line or anything like that, it works the same way, and you get the output back. Whether that output is a file, it can be JSON as we demonstrated here. It can be XML. It can be an HTML page. You can make a call, get a web page, and just kind of scrape some of the text or some of the data that's in that web page. I do have another example here. I think, let's see here, where's my flows? Oh, I don't think I have that one anymore. Never mind. Here's one that I used to run. I need to get it fixed because it used to post to Twitter, which is why it doesn't work anymore. So here's another one of those public APIs where I was going out to the NASA public API and downloading the picture each day. So in this particular case, here it's calling an endpoint. So here's the call to it. Here's doing the call. I was getting a reference here first. Then it was getting a call and getting that data back. And I was parsing that output that was coming from it, which is basically information about either a picture or a YouTube video that NASA would post every day. And then it would check that and say, okay, is it a picture or is it a YouTube video? And then I would do one or two things. So if it was a picture, then you could take the information out of the post that came back from the NASA endpoint. It would come back with the picture as base 64, and then I would convert that to binary, which is what the Twitter API required at the time. So you take that output from your HTTP call, parse the data that comes back from that as JSON, which included the content of the picture itself, and you would convert that and then post that into the tweet at the time, or otherwise, if it wasn't, it would just include the URL to the YouTube video. So that was another example of how I could use the HTTP endpoint or the connector, to go out there to an open API that's out there for the public to use and get some data back. In this particular case, a picture or a YouTube video, and then I can post that to social media. Now, I want to get this one fixed because I really enjoyed posting that to my Twitter every day until that Twitter stuff all went to crap. So there's a couple of good examples of things you can do. So you can use that HTTP endpoint or connector, like I said, to connect to anything that's out there that that you could use a curl request to, or any kind of HTTP connection, pretty much. And like I said, it even supports authorization if you need to use authentication. Sorry, authentication, not authorization. If you need to use that in order to connect to it. So the managed identity, I think it's gotten better, but in the past it didn't really work great. So for instance, if I do that, let me see. Yeah, it was fairly limited in what you could do with the managed identity piece. But like basic auth or OAuth, those work pretty well. It's Active Directory OAuth, so it's against an Azure AD at the time, which which, whatever they call that now, Entra or whatever, it's Entra ID. Same thing. So, those options are available to you. And it's one of the best connectors, one of the most useful connectors that's out there. So hopefully you learned a little bit more about it.